Well, Sean, President Trump's campaign released a powerful new campaign ad targeting Joe Biden's past comments about race. Take a listen.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
My Democratic colleagues don't like me saying this. I think the two-party system is good for the South and good for the Negro, good for the black. And other than the fact that they still call me boy, I think they've changed their mind.
Well, it's a bit shocking to watch that ad, isn't it? To discuss, let's bring in senior advisor for the Trump 2020 campaign, Katrina Pierson. Katrina, good to see you again.
Good to see you both. Thank you.
Katrina, you guys didn't waste any time making this an issue. Are we expecting to see more of this?
Yeah, you know, Sean, what's so interesting is I wish this were a campaign ad. This is an ad that the president retweeted. And, you know, the campaign did release an ad yesterday after Joe Biden's comments on Charlottesville, completely debunking the notion that the president said that there were fine people on both sides, because he absolutely did not say that. And we showed Jake Tapper's own word fact-checking the statement.
Katrina, we've seen the Biden campaign try to say that Trump has a problem with strong women. Are they just trying to bait you here? How are you going to play this?
Yeah, you know, I just think that the Democrats have really run out of substance to discuss. So they want to make everything all about identity, whether you're women or whether you're black. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like the fact that the president tweeted the video that he did, because it shows a documented history of Joe Biden being the person that they're trying to make President Trump out to be. So it's a clear case of projection. The Democrats do not have a plan for America. Their policies are horrendous. And that is exactly why they're trying to stick to identity politics.
Katrina, a bunch of Democratic operatives, Hillary Rosen, Valerie Jarrett, among others, sent a memo to the media telling them how they must treat Kamala Harris and said, quote, "We'll be watching you." Well, apparently it's had its effect, because the media keeps calling her moderate. Let me play for you what George Stephanopoulos said.
Kamala Harris comes from the middle-of-the-road moderate wing of the Democratic Party, not the first choice of progressives, but Joe Biden banking that this historic move as the first woman of color on a national ticket will overcome that.
Katrina, this comes on top of the New York Times calling her a pragmatic moderate, ABC's Rick Klein calling her a moderate. How are you guys going to get out the fact that she is extreme on the left?
Yeah, you know, Sean, it's really going to be just putting the facts out there. That you're right. The media was put on notice. Hollywood has been put on notice to protect Kamala, you know, someone who they think is a strong woman, but somehow needs protection and coddling. I think she should be able to defend her own record without the help of the mainstream media. So the Trump campaign is just going to be honest about Kamala's record and point out all of the things that the media refuses to point out, just as with Joe Biden. And I'm frankly looking forward to it. You know, the Trump campaign is on the trail. In the midst of the pandemic, we're still going to go out there, talk to the voters, and ask for their votes, unlike the Biden campaign, who's going to continue to hide in the basement, not even show up to his own convention in the state of Wisconsin. We're there. We're going to continue to be there and tell the American public the truth about these two records, just to ensure that the media filter isn't going to sway voters. We're going to do it ourselves.
You know, Katrina, she has such a strong, like you're mentioning, record on the left. I know that President Trump has called her nasty. Do you think that he gets anything from doing that instead of just focusing on her record?
Look, President Trump is President Trump. This isn't anything new. He's going to say what he thinks and what he feels. And when you look at her attitude and behavior towards the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh, when you see what she says during a public hearing comparing ICE, our brave law enforcement agents, to the KKK, these are very nasty statements, and it's a very nasty way to conduct yourself as a public official. And so the president just calls it like he sees it. There are a lot of women out there who are going to use this as an opportunity to paint the president in another way. But this is nothing new either. This is something that we as the campaign have been dealing with since 2015, and it's really just a distraction.
Katrina, I talked about how ABC in particular, both Rick Klein and George Stephanopoulos, are painting her as a moderate. Another thing that I thought was interesting about their coverage is ABC's chief correspondent, Jonathan Karl, who has his own troubled history with the truth, tried to talk about the sort of bifurcated message that you guys have on Kamala Harris's record on crime. So let me just ask you straight up, How do you want to portray Kamala Harris's record on crime?
Look, the facts are Kamala Harris is very weak on crime. Just the simple fact of her being a prosecutor doesn't mean that she was strong on crime, because you have to look at the crimes that she did prosecute. Kamala Harris spent her time as a prosecutor punishing parents and pot smokers at the same time, making deals for rapists and murderers. So there's a very strong contrast in the type of law enforcement that we are talking about versus what the media is trying to portray.
You know, last night we saw Kamala Harris with her first official campaign speech, and she tried to attack the president on his approach on the economy. Take a listen.
Trump is also the reason millions of Americans are now unemployed. Because of Trump's failures of leadership, our economy has taken one of the biggest hits out of all the major industrialized nations.
Katrina, do you find this ironic that under President Trump we've had one of the best economies in Americans' history, and now she's trying to use the approach of the coronavirus to attack him on his whole approach to the economy?
Yeah, you know, leave it up to the Democrats to politicize a pandemic. I mean, they make it a business to capitalize on the pain of the people for their own political gain, and that's exactly what's happening here. Americans know that the coronavirus did not come from the White House. It came from China, and we are all in this together. And, you know, if they thought twice about this president and what he's actually doing for the economy, they would also have to acknowledge that the restoration of jobs in this country is coming back at a record rate. Under President Trump, our economy is going faster and stronger than all of the economists predicted after this pandemic. And it goes without saying that without the massive financial buffer created by President Trump, our economy would be in shambles because of this pandemic. But President Trump's leadership and steadfast commitment to the American people and American jobs is what put our country in position to withstand this type of impact.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. It was extremely strong, historic in so many ways prior to COVID, and now he's got it roaring back. I don't think this is a very strong attack for them. Similarly, I thought this attack was rather weak. She went after the president on his leadership style, Katrina. Take a listen to what she said on this.
America is crying out for leadership. Yet we have a president who cares more about himself than the people who elected him.
Katrina, just the irony of that. And then today, the president has a historic deal that he has brokered between the UAE and Israel. That doesn't sound like someone who's concerned about themselves. It sounds like someone who's not only concerned about the people in America, but world peace overall.
Right, Sean. Look, this is projection at its finest. We're talking about a man who sacrificed everything, a man that's going to leave the presidency more poor than going in. You know, and let's talk about Joe Biden for a second. For 50 years, Joe Biden has been in position to make change, to fix all of the problems that he's still complaining about today. Not to mention, he just spent 8 years with Barack Obama, and he's still complaining about the issues that plague Americans, whereas President Trump comes in just one term, turns things around with regards to the economy, with regards to really everything, if you think about it, and look at what you just mentioned. This is a historic moment, once again, one of many, might I add, of the Trump administration, of him putting everything about the country first and not himself.
Katrina, before we go, speaking of historic, and I know the media has used that word more than it probably has in my lifetime in the past 24 hours, I want to ask you just a personal question. As a successful, strong Black woman, do you feel any sense of pride or satisfaction to see another successful, strong Black woman on a national ticket?
I mean, it really doesn't do anything for me because as a woman, you know, I am a mother, I am a business owner, I am a homeowner. So I want to choose the person that is going to protect my freedoms, who's going to protect my safety and security. So the fact that she's a woman, or even a Black woman for that matter, really doesn't move the needle for me, as I suspect it won't do for other Black women.
Okay. Well, I always appreciate your insight, Katrina. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, President Trump reacts to Kamala Harris' VP nomination with one of his favorite go-to words, but critics are claiming his reaction was sexist. We'll discuss that next. Stay with us.